We're going on to the last section of this package. At this point, I'm hoping that I can somehow summarize everything for you. Yes, it's all in words, but I try to simplify the definitions so that you won't necessarily be stressed out. And it'll actually make some sense to you. I'm going to try to give you some examples and pictures to help you with the comprehension. Like, for example, if I gave you a certain question in words, you would know which of the formulas you would need to work out with. You know what? Just to paint a picture, would you take out that package and go to section H? Simple interest, compound interest, future value, present value, they will all have a slightly different equation or formula, but you should be able to pick out which one to use because the wording they use is obvious. There are some things that you just can't put in this formula, and there are some things you just can't put in that formula. So just keep it simple. Simple interest, I can't give you the equation because that's actually part of your package, right? I ask you to find the formula yourself. But if you want some help, hint, hint, it's in the textbook. Okay? If you care to look at the textbook questions. Compound interest is what you already know of. Okay? What's that? Is you put in a certain amount a single time and it keeps on growing. Alright? And this something like this should be in your package already. Future value was, let's see, FV is repeated payment. So any question that talks about a repeated payment or a repeated input or repeated investment or repeated something, think capital R. You have to use this formula to calculate your future value, or calculating reverse how much you need per month, blah, 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 how much you need per week, blah, 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 how much you need per day, blah, blah, blah. Present value is, I think, the most complex. It is the concept that you are not necessarily putting in money, because remember I gave you the example of mortgage. Present value is I have a certain pot of money, whether that is my savings or that is my debt, it doesn't matter. It's just this big lump sum of dollars, okay? And this is going to snowball and it's going to try to get bigger on its own. Whereas I am working hard to make it smaller and smaller. You know what I'm saying? So if this is my savings, I am working hard to spend it as it is continuing to grow. Does that make sense? And if this is debt, I'm trying to pay off my debt and make this smaller, so take away my debt, while the debt is starting to snowball and try to grow. Right? So it's basically, you could think about it as a tug of war between the interest growing and me trying to make it smaller. That is present value. So any question that gets you to start with a certain lump of money and force you to make it smaller as the interest piles up, you could think of that as present value. You'll see with some of the examples I give you in part A. Right? So the equation for that is present value R. And please notice the slight difference. That makes a huge difference when you plug it in. Okay? It's very similar in terms of the formula, but what it does for you is completely different. Fair warning, next time the day that we do the test, the day that this package is due, next week, Thursday, Friday, so you still have a week and a bit, all right? It's basically going to ask you to put something like this together, future value and present value. Okay, let it be known, it's on the video, it's on the video. The test is going to be you being my financial planner, where I ask you how I should save up if I am going to live a certain kind of retirement lifestyle for, let's say, 10 years or 20 years or even 30 years. Let's pretend I'm super healthy and I'm going to live until like 120. So from 65 to 120, that's 55 years of retirement. I want you to plan for it. Here's the problem, and this is what I want to address. The formula that we use right now, did you notice that? Okay. Did you notice that every time we do monthly, the interest and the date on the year changes to a monthly. If I did daily, you divide it by 365 and you also multiply by 365. If I did weekly, 52, 52. Everything applies. However, the banks are not going to simply change their way of interest just because you want to. So sometimes they will charge you monthly interest, but you may want to put in weekly. So the timing might be different. So to make that fair, the apps, the banks, and everyone does something slightly different. They tweak this formula to make it work. Now, we don't have the time, nor do we care to tweak all the little details unless you would decide to become a financial thing. And if you decide to do that in your university time and you're like, oh, Mr. Kim lied to me, I just want to let you know, the banks do something slightly different so that it compensates and it's fair for them as well as it being fair for you. So the formula is not perfect. So even if you use an app, the numbers will be slightly different. However, it's accurate enough that it gives you a good idea of what direction you're going. That's all. So if you forget all of this stuff, right, Aiden? If you forget all of this math in the future, you can still help yourself using apps and calculating things. The only problem is apps still require human input, which means you need to know what numbers you need to plug in where and what each of these things mean. You need to know what principal, final amount, compounding, period, like all these different lingo words, you should have an idea of how to use them. Okay?